Hi, this is John Rosen here, the Jerusalem psychotherapist. This week's Torah and Psychology post, Pastor's Chukas, we read about the death of Miriam and then what happened subsequently, that there was no water for the Bnei Israel to drink, and they came and complained to Moshe Rabbeinu. And then subsequently, Moshe Rabbeinu was told, as we know in the Psukim, to speak to the rock in order to bring water, to bring forth water from the rock, and instead he hit the rock, for which he was punished. And if we look at this situation, it can be explored from different angles, just in terms of the intense emotions that was being experienced at the time. And in particular for Moshe Rabbeinu. For Moshe Rabbeinu was punished for hitting the rock instead of speaking to the rock. And we're not on the level to understand exactly the cheshbonos and the calculations of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the expectations of Moshe Rabbeinu, but seemingly we're given the impression that if Moshe Rabbeinu had spoken to the rock, it would have been a greater Kiddush Hashem. It would have provided and shown to the Bnei Yisrael a greater revelation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hashgacha and the support that he gives to the Bnei Yisrael. And this seemingly was a lost opportunity. But if we focus on the emotions that Moshe Rabbeinu was experiencing at the time, the Rambam seems to suggest that the reason why Moshe Rabbeinu was punished was that he hit the rock out of anger. This was perhaps inappropriate. He was expressing an emotion of anger, which led to hitting the rock. But as we know, psychologically, every emotion we could say is valid. It's expressed. It should be given recognition and acknowledgement for its existence and for its expression. So Moshe Rabbeinu was experiencing at this time anger. This can be for a couple of reasons. We know Moshe Rabbeinu had just lost his sister. His sister had passed away. Miriam had died. Now there's no water. The miracle of the water, of the well that was provided to the Bnei Israel was gone. All this was a reminder and was caught up with the intense emotions that Moshe Rabbeinu was experiencing for the personal suffering and mourning for the loss of his sister. So with these intense emotions, the sadness that he was experiencing, caught up with that was the Bnei Israel coming and complaining that there was no water, the water that was associated with Miriam. This is bringing out probably difficult, mixed emotions from Moshe Rabbeinu, which could have led, if we could say, to a sense of perhaps irritability, and whatever Moshe Rabbeinu's level was in terms of being frustrated by the Bnei Israel, which in certain times a range of emotions and the difficulty and struggle to hold a range of contrasting complex emotions can be expressed with anger. If we can see Moshe Rabbeinu hitting the rock, if we think of the sadness and the sense of loss that he was experiencing and the responsibility and the weight of responsibility that he was experiencing, with the Bnei Israel coming as well and complaining that there was no water, in a sense that could be in a way a complaint against him, a complaint against Miriam, a lack of validation for the loss that he was experiencing. So it's no wonder that it was coming out at this moment as an expression of anger. It would be very difficult to hold that range of emotions, perhaps even for Moshe Rabbeinu. The Rambam was pointing out that this expression of anger was inappropriate, but we can understand from a psychological level, from this perspective of what Moshe Rabbeinu was experiencing at the time, and the need to give validation, that we could say, the need to give validation for these emotions. So for Moshe Rabbeinu, we can say, and I think it's important to acknowledge the humanity of the giants of the Torah, the giants that we have in the Sfarim that we learn, the Gedolim that we have, and the huge personalities that we read about. At the end of the day, they're also human. And I think that we could use this opportunity, this Torah psychology post, is to acknowledge and to give validation to these emotions that Moshe Rabbeinu could have been experiencing at the time, and how he was trying to process and express these emotions. Because when a person is experiencing whatever emotion he's experiencing, he has to give self-validation, and it's also important that other people can give validation, which the Bnei Yisrael, by coming and complaining about the water, on face value, was certainly not validating the experience and the emotions that Moshe Rabbeinu was experiencing at that moment. So in this sense, in this way, when we say that Moshe Rabbeinu could have spoken to the rock and it was a lost opportunity, yes, there was an opportunity to show the Bnei Yisrael the nace and the miracle of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that he's there to help. But in a sense, it was a lost opportunity because there's emotions that are being experienced here. And that, if we take it to our day-to-day life, for example, if we are stressed and we're at home and the children, the kids are tired and they're hungry and they're fighting, whatever the situation is, it can be very difficult as a parent to give yourself your own validation, to be like, I am stressed, I'm overwhelmed at the moment. And sometimes that can come out with anger, with irritability. It can be shouting, where we would, in an ideal world, we would like to be able to self-validate, self-regulate, and to express our emotions in a calm way, but sometimes it doesn't happen. So yes, in an ideal world, we can say that Moshe Rabbeinu could have expressed and fulfilled the word of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a different way, without expressing it as anger and hitting the rock. And as a parent, we would like sometimes to be able to express ourselves in a calmer way. And it's a missed opportunity from a chinuch perspective to be able to educate our children in the ideal way, in a calm environment. Sometimes it doesn't happen. So the message of this psychology post is that validating one's own emotions is important. Giving validation to the emotions that are being expressed is critical. And through that, hopefully we can work on ourselves to be able to find a way to express our emotions in the most appropriate way. Have a good Shabbos and keep well.